That's as far as that. I'm only halfway through Never Split the Difference, which we'll talk about. So.
You're missing half of it.
I know. I'm working on it.
There's the whole second half. Once you get past there, you gotta bucket tip them. Okay, great. So if we can solve that, that's great. But is there anything else that prevents you from moving forward?
And what else do we have to overcome before we move forward?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Fluxtomer Flamin' Flab.
Ah, yes, the Fluxtomer Flamin' Lab.
I think what I meant to write, I'll have to be chatting with our producer. You don't write the script under the influence. What I meant to say is welcome to the Customer Engagement Lab, Patrick.
Thanks.
I am your host, Travis Tyler, and with me, as always, is my faithful, trusted, never abandoning me co-host, Patrick Big Daddy Downs.
Hello.
On today's episode, Patrick and I are joined by the guy who has consistently hit and exceeded quota more times than almost any other PandaDoc employee in history. And if you're like me, you're both oddly intimidated by him and utterly intrigued by this golf club swinging, sales negotiating whiz kid. It's Luke Ruffing in the house.
Luke Ruffing in the house.
Let's go.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I got chills.
Thanks for being here, Luke. Luke, to kick off today's show, I'm going to play you a TikTok. That reminds me of something that you probably run into as an AE. And it has to do with people coming to you with objections on pricing or maybe objections that they're going to build it in-house. You ready for a little talk to kick it off?
Let's talk it off.
All right.
Send it.
So for those that are just listening, it's a guy rocking out with his band. And it says, what I hear when someone says, I found a guy to do it cheaper. And my favorite comment in the comment threads was, can I go to a Metallica concert? Mom says, we have Metallica at home. So I would replace this meme with what I hear when someone says, I have a cheaper option, or I have a cheaper quote from so-and-so, or we can build it in-house for cheaper. Is that something you run into at all, ever, Luke?
Me? No, I sell value all the time. Just ask my manager.
So, what does that mean?
No, actually, as soon as that thing popped up, you ever seen that drawing of the horse where
Yes.
the back end of the horse is perfect? They got all the hairs right on the mane and the tail and everything's right there. And then the prospect says, yeah, we need to do it cheaper. And then they just draw a stick figure on the front end. That's what happens when you try to go cheap.
How do you usually approach conversations where somebody, whether they bring like a cheaper offer to you, or they're like, well, I can get, PandaDoc, what you guys do cheaper from so-and-so. Last week on the show, Patrick and I talked a little bit about strip lining. Is that a tactic that you like to employ yourself, or do you have something different?
Oh, there's nothing better than a good strip line. But actually, when something like that arises, I'll go back to the framework I learned from Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something we just worked on last week, so it's top of mind, but just pause. So you found somebody who can do it cheaper. And then you're able to mirror them. Oh, do it cheaper? And so they'll usually expand off that for the reason why they want it done cheaper, whether it's actually a budgetary thing or it's something missing in the product that the value didn't land. And then you go through and you empathize with them, understand, all right, I can understand why you're doing that. Can I offer you another perspective? And that part's key.
Mm-hmm.
Is getting their permission, because otherwise you're just forcing an idea on them and they're not going to take ownership of it. They don't own it and they don't think it's their idea, they're not going to follow through with it. And so you got to get their permission first, and then you offer a reframe. Seems like, sounds like, feels like something with a label attached to it. You're able to spin that back around. If you're actually able to get value point that you said you were missing, would that have a bigger impact than the $5 you would save by going with a cheaper option? Answer is yes. Problem is that's where most sales reps stop.
That's where I would
This is the-
stop. That's as far as that. I'm only halfway through Never Split the Difference, which we'll talk about. So
You're missing half of it.
I know. I'm working on it.
There's the whole second half. Once you get past there, you got to bucket tip them. Okay, great. So if we can solve that, that's great. But is there anything else that prevents you from moving forward?
Yeah. What else do we have to overcome before we move forward? Tip that bucket. You heard
Because
term
that
before,
first
Ken?
No, I've
objection,
never heard of that.
I love tipping the bucket because there are so many ghost objections or fake objections you can run into where they're trying to hide what the actual issue is. By bucket tipping, you start to uncover a few of them. It's not just the first one. It's cheap when you found something cheaper. No. There's something missing on a value side, or there's a budget side, or there's a payment term side. You need to get down to the root cause. Once you can do that, you know how to solve it. We're good at solving things. The problem is breaking things. It's really hard to do.
Solve the right thing. A lot of people solve the wrong issue. Like when I was training Reed, he had an issue where we called it, he was fighting ghosts.
Yeah.
Or like there was a ghost objection and he took it at face value and he would solve that. But you solve a problem for a ghost, it's dead. You know, it's already dead. There's no actual problem. There's some body, some corpse in the ground. You need to solve that issue.
It reminds me of when we were role playing on our last episode that hasn't come out yet, but will soon. Where I was trying to get you to come down on price on my kitty litter Zen garden that I was buying from you. And he was like, he found my ghost objection was price. I didn't care about price. I just wanted Patrick to give me the time of day and answer my questions and make me feel like I was going to get support on the product, because I told him nobody else got back to me about selling me this ridiculous kitty litter Zen garden. So I'm really glad you brought up ghost objections, because that's something we haven't talked about on the show. And I'm wondering if this translates into anything that marketing does. Like when we're talking about positioning or messaging or running some sort of campaign, if we're addressing the wrong objections.
What objections do you address?
So like one of the things I try to do in some of the videos that we create is I try to empathize with who I think is going to be watching this video. And I try to address objections instead of pretend like they're not there, which is what a marketing usually does. It's just like, this is a perfect product. There is nothing wrong with it. So like in the case of PandaDoc, I did a video where I compared us to other e-sign tools on the market. And I said, you know, here are the things that we're not good at currently. And I was like, listing some of the things that we've run into on the enterprise side of people wanting to be able to do certain things that our product just can't do. But I'm just trying to think of like, are there ghost, like, can we as marketers learn anything about ghost objections and use that in our?
Well, I'd say like sometimes it doesn't really matter if you don't have a feature. And if you're like, oh, we don't have track changes. Okay. That's not always a deal killer. Like, what are they actually trying to solve for? I think a lot of marketing is around like use case, feature, and then like maybe a superficial pain, like save you time.
Yeah.
Where that's not like a real pain. Like I spend too much time on that. That's the very surface level.
What would be a deeper pain than
I wish I had time to prospect. And then wish I had time to prospect goes to, I wish I could set more appointments. I wish I could set more appointment goes to, I wish I could close more deals. Wish I could close more deals goes, I wish I had my quota. Wish I had my quota goes,
so you can make money.
Paid more. Oh, you really want to get paid more? It's not saving time. You want to make more money. You want job security. That's the actual issue.
I don't feel safe.
I don't feel safe.
That's what boss says.
I don't want my workflow to be streamlined. I want to be safe.
People want two things. They want to feel safe and secure. And I feel like they're in control. See, I did read the book. Half of it.
You know, there's a plot twist halfway through and it becomes an erotic thriller.
Holy shit.
In the last 100 pages.
I've got a plot twist for you in this episode right now.
Tell me.
Luke sent me a recording where he used some negotiation techniques to close what I think was a $21,000 deal without a discount.
24.
$24,000 deal.
Undercutting this man.
Let's play a quick part of that clip and see Luke's Voss's techniques in action, or at least listen.
The questions about the content and approval workflows and all that, isn't that just part of the? Did I misunderstand something?
Nope, that's part of the agreement. So what's listed on there for pricing, and these are enterprise features. So let me tell you something, the quote would be a lot more if I was to quote you enterprise, but I can get you exactly what you need a la carte at this price point.
So we just pay for it every month or whatever, per user, ongoing. That's how it works for those items, correct?
That's exactly right.
Okay. All right. And then he wants to beat you up on the price. So what do you want me to tell him about that? You've already given.
So let's pause here. So
Okay.
for those that are listening, maybe a little hard to hear the recording, but the guy was asking about specific features. And then he said that his coworker wants to beat Luke up on the price. Luke, what was going through your head like the minute you hear that?
I'm having flashbacks to 3.5 months prior to that, where I had my first call with him, the 6 meetings I had multi-threaded my way through the sale. And I'm getting to the end here, and he wants to undercut all my hard work and value that we're going to drive for him. So that's what's going through my head when this happens.
Let's hear what happens next.
Giving me a discounted price?
Well, we've already worked out the payment terms to fit your budgeting schedule.
Right.
So right now we're at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The clip goes on for another minute. And it's just silence.
Oh, it's this one.
Luke has started his timer, which unfortunately is blurred out. So you were silent for about 2 minutes there in this clip. And now he's silent with us.
Is this JK moving? Yeah.
Yeah. So can you break down like how you handle that step by step? Like, is it just a matter of just shutting the fuck up? Is that it?
Yeah. It's so easy to talk yourself out of a deal. It's so easy to talk yourself out of holding firm on pricing or holding to the value that you delivered. Whereas it's a lot harder for them to push you out of it. They have to talk themselves and talk you into giving up something. You're losing control when you start talking more. It plays into their hands. So that's why I use silence in that particular scenario, because we did deliver something of value that they needed, which was their payment terms.
Yeah.
What else do you want? That's it.
Just he wants a discount.
He showed his hand too. He said he wants to beat you up on price. So like some people will come to you and be like, well, we can't sign if we don't get it here. But this guy was like, he just wants to beat you up. So it's very easy to look at that and be like, well, no. You just told me the only reason you're asking for a discount is because you just want to feel like you could get one. It's not even like a legitimate, you need a discount. So why would I give you a discount? Like, come on, man.
Oh,
It's negotiating 101.
Wait, my camera just went blurry. Let's see what happens. There we go. So yeah, like step by step, I'm interested in like another story, which is rumor has it that at one point in your career, you negotiated a pretty insane commission structure that resulted in you getting a pretty good chunk of change over the course of like a couple months or a year. What was it?
Yeah, it was a couple months.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what went into that negotiation, and if there's a way to like share the story without you getting you in trouble or anybody else?
I don't know if that's possible, but I'll go anyway. Got a new position open up and I'd been top producer for like a year, and I really wanted this promotion, this job. And so I knew I had a champion in one of the leadership here. So I was able to use that and maneuver myself into a good position. But something I was able to bring up, and it's not necessarily about the money. It's not about the day-to-day stuff. It's more about recognition. Like, hey, you did a good job. Here's what you did. You did the hardest thing out here, which was selling. Selling's hard.
Yeah.
The best are hitting 20, 30% close rates. That's industry leading. But anyways, I took the number that was on like our President's Club for that year, plugged it into a calculator, and there were a lot of zeros after the decimal point, and I showed it to him. I was like, oh, thank you for bringing that to my attention. So next day, fast forwarding, we get into the meeting room, and I pull a similar tactic. I just sit there, stare at him. 10 minutes later, I had everything I wanted.
I love that Travis always wants a step by step, but the only step is stare.
I know. I'm like over here, like, what can you teach me, a fucking knucklehead in marketing, about negotiating? And he's like, just, I think one of the things I've learned from you, Luke, is your anxiety as a seller and as a person can get you into a lot of trouble. And that anxiety can translate into, like you said earlier, talking yourself out of a deal, talking yourself out of the thing that you actually wanted. And I know I am victim to that. And learning to be comfortable with silence takes time. I think it takes a good teacher too, to see somebody do it. If you haven't seen somebody leverage that calm tactic, then it's harder to just know instinctively to do that. Don't fucking use silence on me now.
Might be the worst podcast ever. Just an hour and a half of silence.
It's an audio medium with no words. I will say, you know how I learned it? I used to use a headset to make cold calls, and I did all my selling on the phone. This is like before Zoom was huge.
Yeah.
When I would say something like Luke, where I'd like stand firm on something, or I'd ask for the close, I take the mic, I flip it up, so I couldn't talk. Like sometimes I actually would keep talking, but they couldn't hear me because my headset was up. So if you're having a hard time, do something like that. Put yourself on mute so you can't just stick in it. And it's really uncomfortable because usually if the other person does talk, it's also like a lot of stammering with them trying to fill the space. And then you want to like save the conversation, but you still just have to like stay shutting up. And sometimes it's even past that, like they might say something again. And if it's not a question, sometimes you have to just stay silent. Like sometimes they'll be like, all right, so it's going to be this much. And if it's not a question, I'm like, I'm not even going to respond. I'm just going to sit here and be like, and then eventually they're going to say something else because they don't want to be in the silence.
Most people don't.
It's uncomfortable.
It is. I want to do a little fun role play exercise with Luke.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so
You know how I feel about role plays, Patrick.
he's a fan of him or no?
Loves them.
Yeah, I figured.
No.
Word on the street is that you have what it takes to be a fully professional golfer. So
Good word.
Patrick is going to pretend to be your CRO, and you're coming to him with a new role, similar to the situation we talked about earlier, a new role that you really want. But this is going to be one where you sell part-time and you play golf part-time. Are you down to try to sell this role to Patrick?
I'll tell you later while I'm laughing,
Okay.
but let's do it.
You can tell me
Ironic.
now too.
No, not on air.
Okay. let's go ahead and start this of negotiating into a full-time account exec / golfer.
All right. Hi,
Oh, it's
Luke.
part-time.
This is the CRO speaking. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. Counting money.
Is that your favorite pastime?
Oh yes. How can I help you? Luke?
Stacking bills again. Well, it's not how you can help me, it's how I can help you. Seems like we've been struggling a bit with some maybe higher end ticket items and deal sizes. I don't know if you felt that at all, Mr. CRO, count money up there.
Yes, we're trying to raise the ASP.
Trying to raise the ASP. Yeah, it's been a struggle. I mean, you've seen our inside sales. It's on Zoom, it's on phone calls. We use all the Sandler techniques and all that stuff, but again, the ticket prices haven't raised even with that training we had. You am I off base on this?
They're stagnated.
Stagnated. Okay. Is that having an impact with the board?
They've asked.
How many times?
They asked a couple weeks ago, the last meeting. They said, Patrick, what's going on with these ASPs? And I said, I don't know. We did a training.
Pause. They didn't call you Patrick. They called you Mr. CRO. Keep going.
Yeah, Mr. CRO, what happened? I said, I don't know. We did a training. They're stagnating. In fact, in some markets, we've actually gone down.
Fuck.
I know. Who are you?
Sorry.
Down? Is this your executive assistant?
Yeah. So, as you know, we've opened up the outbound team, and I think in an effort to get some revenue in, we've started maybe even discounting beyond what we would usually do, which is pulling our ASP down.
And again, to scale this thing up and keep the board happy, keep the funding rolling in, we need to get those up. We need to bump those numbers up. They're rookie numbers from what you're telling me.
Yeah, they're not good.
Have a crazy idea. Mind if I bounce it off you?
Go for it.
I'm grinding away day in and day out. Problem is it's really transactional, which again is great for keeping business coming in, but it's keeping the ASP low. There are a bunch of connections I have up in the New England area. Here's a thought. This is like 2-3 months and run a project here where I'm wining dining clients, getting to meet with them face to face, taking them out for golf, basically lessons, and leveraging that into getting some more meetings. Because these be bigger companies with the budgets to go out and take a Tuesday afternoon to just spend 4 hours playing golf, talking business. What are your thoughts?
On your own dime, I assume.
Own dime.
Yes, you'd be paying for all this.
Paying for all the golf.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the thought? What about the commission after a deal closes?
That would be what you're making now.
Sounds like, again, ASP is not really a big issue for you.
It is.
Yeah, I figured it was a crazy idea. And again, the ASPs aren't really hurting and stuff. I'll just file that one away for later.
What do you want?
It's not what I want. It's how I can help you. Here's my thoughts. You can get me some tickets in and basically just pay for greens fees and drinks afterwards. I don't know how much you're spending on the marketing budget, but man, I'm seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars going out there. You give me 5K, 10K, 3 months. I might be able to land you 4 or 5 whales. And by the way, if it doesn't work, again, you're paying me on commission.
All right, let me talk to the VP of marketing and see if we can shut the podcast down and pull from that budget. And potentially, yeah.
All right. Nice job, guys.
All right, what's next steps?
We don't need to shut down the podcast.
Well, yeah. So we got this idea. We're gonna take all the podcast money and put it into golf.
There is no podcast money. We already
There's
bought-
always money in the podcast, stand, Michael.
That was awesome. I loved watching you two go back and forth, and I couldn't help but just laughing when I felt like tension and like moments where Patrick was like, I don't know. I was thinking you were like, good job, Luke.
Yeah, the strip line was really funny. Like, yeah, it seems like the ASPs aren't important to you. What do you want? I've had people react like that to me. When I
ASP
say that.
average,
What do you want?
average sale price, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure that that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Sorry,
translate.
that was very buzzwordy. My bad.
That's okay.
Yes, ASPs.
Just there's some marketers,
Our
and
ASP is going down.
CS folks and product folks that listen to this for fun. So I just want to make sure. That was great. Thank you both so much. I think Luke made a pretty good case. Fuck. I pay him to go golf.
Yeah.
That's
but
a dream,
they're
isn't
paying
it?
for it.
I'm paying for it.
I'm paying for that.
My final question for you, Luke, is do you use these negotiation techniques in your personal life?
Yeah.
Like with your you have a girlfriend, right?
Well, here's the funny part is
Okay.
they get used on me.
Okay.
And I know it's happening, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Has it progressed to that point where Isabel is doing that to you?
Mirroring, labeling, just objection handling. The strip lines are the worst. I guess you don't want to go out there. I guess we're not going there. Oh, you'd rather hang out with them? Oh, strip lines are the worst. But there's nothing you can do about it. Just like you have to cave and you're like, what do you want? What do you want?
Dude, we have to get her on a phone and get her on a quota ASAP.
Oh, she would make way more money than me. Phenomenal.
I just love the idea of like somebody using these techniques on Luke. It just makes me so happy because I feel like he uses them on everybody.
I
It
had
warms
somebody
my
that
heart that
started
he-
recently and was like, "Hey, do you know Luke?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What is up with that guy?" I was trying to talk to him, and he just kept repeating my words back to me, and he wouldn't have a conversation with me. And then I just got frustrated and walked away.
If it's not closing deals, what the fuck does Luke care about, man? It's a
I was
waste
like,
of
you
his
got
time.
labeled to death.
Seems like you did.
Thank you both so much. This was a fun podcast, and I hope those listening go check out Never Split the Difference. Connect with Luke on LinkedIn, and that you guys learn a little bit about just shutting the hell up and stop talking your way out of deals.
Yeah, stop talking. Period.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, don't talk to me.
Nailed it.
All right. Adios, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for hanging out with us today on the Customer Engagement Lab. For more of Travis and Patrick's chaotic energy, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you would make our hearts smile if you left a super quick rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the show deserves. It'll take you 2 seconds, I promise. Till next time.